I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been with my wife, Lisa, for about 8 years now. We met in college, got married pretty young, and for the most part, everything seemed perfect, or at least normal enough to keep me from questioning too much. Lisa was always a little bitchy and quick with a lie, but I figured that was just her personality. She's the type who can be charming one second and completely cold the next, and I guess I was just used to it. Things started feeling weird a few weeks ago, though. Small things. She'd be secretive about her phone, hiding her screens when I walked into the room, and sometimes she'd get defensive when I asked where she was going or who she was texting. I figured maybe she was just tired, or maybe she was planning a surprise because she always had an excuse, some story about work, her friend Sarah, or some other bullshit. But deep down, I started sensing that something was off, especially with her attitude shifting. She became more dismissive, less affectionate, and whenever I tried to talk to her about it, she'd brush me off with some smart-ass remark or just tell me I was overthinking it. Then came the funeral. My dad passed away unexpectedly, and for a week, everything was chaos. I was wrecked, and Lisa was supposed to be there for me, but she just seemed distant. She wasn't crying or showing real grief. She was more like someone who was just going through the motions. My dad's funeral was a blur of tears, family members I hadn't seen in years, and a lot of grief I didn't know how to handle. I thought maybe Lisa was just overwhelmed or not good with emotional stuff. But after everything settled down, I started noticing the small, strange details. Her phone kept ringing at weird hours, and she was sneaking off into the bathroom or the bedroom whenever I looked her way. One night, I caught her in a lie. I saw her phone light up with a message from someone named Jake. I didn't recognize the number, but the way she suddenly clammed up when I asked about it told me enough. I got curious. Something inside me just snapped, and I decided to follow her. That's when I found her sneaking out of the house at midnight, meeting someone at the back of the neighborhood park. My heart was pounding, but I stayed hidden behind the trees, watching her kiss this guy, Jake, like her life depended on it. I saw her hands all over him, heard the muffled laughter and the whispers, and I knew then that everything I thought was real was just a lie. I felt sick. My stomach turned, and for a second I couldn't breathe. My wife, the woman I trusted, was cheating on me with my childhood best friend. That's when everything changed. I couldn't stay silent anymore. I waited until she left that night, then went through her phone and her emails, more messages, more lies. She'd been screwing around with Jake for months, I bet, probably even during the funeral while I was mourning my dad. That's the moment I realized the woman I loved, the woman I'd built my life around, was capable of such heartless betrayal. I've never felt so betrayed, so stupid for not seeing it earlier. I don't even know how I stayed strong after that, honestly. All I could think about was how she lied to my face, how she lied to everyone at the funeral, and how she did it all right under my nose. After I saw her with Jake that night, everything inside me just shattered. It was like a punch to the gut, but 10 times worse because I'd been blind to it for so long. I stayed hidden behind those trees, watching her kiss him, feeling this mix of rage, heartbreak, and disbelief swirl inside my chest. How could she be so heartless? How could she betray me like this, especially during my dad's funeral? I mean, that was supposed to be a day of mourning, a day to honor a man who meant everything to me. Instead, she was out there cheating on me, on us, with someone I thought was my best friend. The betrayal cut so deep I felt numb for a while. When she finally left with Jake, I waited a few minutes before I finally got the courage to go back home. My mind was racing, trying to process what I'd just seen, trying to figure out what I was going to do next. I kept replaying that kiss, that touch, over and over again, and each time it stung worse. I didn't even remember how I managed to get into the house without losing it. My hands trembled as I unlocked the door, and I just stood there for a moment, staring at the empty hallway, feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I stayed up, trying to come up with a plan. My first instinct was to confront her immediately, but I knew that wasn't the right move. Lisa's a master manipulator. She'd deny everything, lie her way out of it, and probably turn it around on me. That's just who she is. So I decided to gather more evidence, dig deeper, and figure out how long she'd been doing this. I went through her text messages, her emails, her social media. I found even more proof, screenshots, messages, plans, even some explicit photos she sent Jake. I was sick to my stomach. I also reached out to Jake. I needed to hear it straight from him. I called him and he didn't even try to deny it, just said, "Yeah, we've been messing around for a while. Lisa, been pretty into this." Hearing that from him made everything so much worse. I never thought my best friend would betray me like that, especially with my wife. It was a double punch, feeling betrayed by both of them at once. I had the urge to confront him right then and there, but I knew that would only make things worse. I needed to get my head straight first. As days passed, I felt like I was living in a nightmare. Every time I looked at Lisa, I saw a stranger. Her lies started spilling out. She kept denying it, saying it was just a mistake, that it meant nothing, that Jake was just some guy she met at the gym. She had all these excuses, all these elaborate lies. The bitchiness in her tone, the way she dismissed my feelings, it was like I was nothing to her. I could see the contempt in her eyes, like she blamed me for everything, like I was just some guy who was supposed to be okay with her cheating on him. I couldn't even look at her the same way anymore. Every night I'd lie in bed, trying to understand how someone I loved so much could do this to me. I felt stupid for trusting her, for believing in the "we're happy" stories. All that trust, all that time, gone in an instant. I was furious at her for doing this during my dad's funeral, like she couldn't even wait until I was vulnerable, until I was already broken. She had to kick me when I was down, and that's what made it all so unforgivable. I kept asking myself, how could she be so heartless? How could she lie to my face, cheat with my best friend, and then have the nerve to act like everything was normal? That's when the idea of revenge started forming. I knew she was a liar, a manipulator, and that she'd try to spin her way out of this. But I also knew I couldn't just walk away. I needed to make her pay somehow. Not physically, but I wanted her to see how much she'd hurt me, how much she'd destroyed everything we had built. I started planning how to expose her, how to make her regret every lie, every betrayal. I didn't want her to get away with it. I wanted her to feel the pain she'd inflicted on me, on us. That's where I'm standing now, still trying to figure out what comes next, still pissed off and hurt, but knowing I can't go back to her the way things were. I need to find a way to deal with this mess, no matter how much it hurts. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became that Lisa wasn't just a liar, she was a master manipulator. She knew exactly how to twist things, how to pretend everything was okay when it was. She threw out so many lies in rapid succession, I started losing track. One minute she was crying, saying she didn't mean to hurt me, that it was a stupid mistake, and that Jake was just some guy she met at the gym who got her uncontrollably horny. I remember the way she looked at me, that bitchy smirk on her face, like she was trying to make me feel guilty for catching her. I couldn't believe the audacity. She told me she loved me, that she was sorry, that she'd never do it again. But her words felt hollow, like she was just trying to buy time, trying to keep me from walking out and exposing her for the cheating. Bitch she really was. Honestly, I'd never seen someone lie so smoothly, so convincingly. It was like she had practicing her whole life. I decided to confront her directly, face to face. I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know. One afternoon, I called her into the living room and told her I knew everything. I laid out all the evidence, screenshots, the messages, the times I saw her sneaking out. Her eyes flicked nervously, and for a moment I thought she'd break down. But instead, she straightened her back, threw her head back with that bitchy attitude, and started spinning some bullshit about how Jake is just a friend. How I was paranoid, how she'd never cheat on me, just a stupid mistake she'd be willing to fix. Her reaction made me furious. The way she dismissed my feelings like I was just some inconvenience she had to deal with. I had to hold back from grabbing her by the shoulders and shaking her. I felt a mixture of rage and despair. Rage because she'd done this, and despair because I knew she'd never truly admit it, never really apologize. She was so good at lying, at pretending she was innocent. Still, I pushed her harder, asked her to tell me the truth, if she was still seeing Jake, if there was more she was hiding. She denied everything, said I was crazy, and that I was just jealous. My feelings were a tornado. I was angry, hurt, and completely devastated. I trusted her, loved her, built my life around her. And she just threw it all away, cheating on me, lying, making a fool of me during one of the worst days of my life. I don't know how I kept my composure, honestly. I wanted to scream, to cry, to do something that would make her see how much she'd hurt me, but I just stood there, silent, feeling like I'd been punched so hard I couldn't breathe. I started questioning everything. Was our whole marriage just a lie? Did I miss the signs? Had I been so blind that I never saw what she was really like? And worst of all, I kept replaying that kiss, that moment when she was with Jake, and asking myself if she ever felt guilty, if she ever cared about how much she was destroying us. The truth was, I don't think she did. She just played her game, lying and scheming, while I was out here trying to hold everything together. I knew I couldn't keep living like this. I had to decide what to do next. Part of me wanted to just walk away, to pack my bags and leave her to her lies. But another part, something darker, wanted to make her suffer, even just a little. I wanted her to feel what I felt, to see what she'd done to me. I wanted her to realize that her actions weren't just about cheating. She shattered my trust, my respect, and the life I'd worked so hard to build. It was like everything I believed in was a house of cards, and her betrayal was the storm that knocked it all down. I didn't have a clear plan yet, but I knew I had to do something. I couldn't let her get away with it. I was hurt, furious, and feeling more alone than I ever had in my life. I started thinking about how to expose her, how to make her see that her lies wouldn't save her in the end. I needed to be strategic, cut through her manipulations, and show everyone the woman she really was. Because if I didn't do it, I felt like I'd be drowning in her lies forever. I spent the next few days in a fog trying to piece everything together. Every time I looked at Lisa, I saw the smile she put on, fake, rehearsed, like she was still trying to manipulate everyone around her. Meanwhile, I was simmering with anger and heartbreak. I couldn't believe I had been this blind, that I had trusted someone so utterly selfish and cold. But part of me also knew I had to act carefully. Going full-blown crazy or confronting her outright might backfire. I needed a plan that would hit her where it hurt, but also get the truth out in the open. One thing I did was start talking to some of her friends, trying to gauge how much she'd told them about us. I already knew she was good at spinning stories, so I wanted to see what she'd been telling everyone behind my back. Turns out she'd been painting herself as the victim, like I was the one who didn't understand her, like I was overreacting. That made me even angrier. She was so good at twisting everything, at making herself look innocent. It was infuriating, but at the same time, I realized I needed proof, something irrefutable that would expose her for the lying, cheating bitch she really was. I decided to set up a little trap. Lisa was always paranoid about her phone, so I started checking her messages more carefully, taking screenshots, saving everything. I even went as far as installing a monitoring app on her phone, something I never thought I'd do, but I was desperate. I wanted concrete evidence, proof that I could show her and everyone else. Every little lie, every excuse she made, I kept recording. I wanted her to see that I wasn't just some emotionally unstable guy making accusations. I had hard proof. Meanwhile, I was also working on a way to confront her publicly. I wanted to do it in a way that would make her realize I wasn't going to be one of her pawns anymore. I started gathering messages, pictures, even some of her calls with Jake. I knew I had to be careful. She was a master manipulator, and I didn't want her spinning her lies again. But I also knew I couldn't just sit around and wait for her to slip up. I had to create a situation where she would be forced to reveal herself or get caught. One afternoon, I found an unexpected ally. My sister, Sarah, knew about the funeral and the chaos that followed. I told her what I'd discovered, how hurt I was, and how I was planning to expose Lisa. Sarah was furious. She told me to stop holding back, to tell Lisa exactly what I knew and to make her face the consequences. She even suggested confronting her in front of Jake, but I wasn't ready for that yet. I wanted to do it smart, show her I had all the evidence, that I wasn't afraid anymore. So I kept collecting. I set up a few more discreet recordings, took screenshots of her messages, and made a plan to confront her with everything at once. I was so tired of her lies, her manipulations, her fake tears and angry excuses. I wanted her to feel the same pain she'd given me, to see her squirm under the weight of her own deception. It was the only way I knew I could make her understand how deeply she'd hurt me and how much. I was done trusting her. The day I decided to confront her, I felt this strange mixture of nervousness and relief. I knew I'd finally get the truth, or at least enough to make her reveal herself completely. I didn't want to just accuse her. I wanted her to admit everything, to look me in the eyes and see that I wasn't going to be played anymore. I was tired of being the fool, tired of being the one who kept giving her chances. This was it. I was ready to end it, one way or another. That evening, I set everything up. I had my phone recording, all the evidence laid out in front of me. I was determined to get her to admit it. I knew she'd try her best to deny everything, to spin her usual lies, but I also knew I had enough proof to blow her cover. I called her into the living room under the pretense of needing to talk. Her face was already tense, that typical bitchy smirk hiding her nerves. She thought she was going to manipulate me again, I'm sure. I started slow, showing her the screenshots I collected, the messages from Jake, the photos she sent him, the times I saw her sneaking out. Her eyes flickered with panic, but she kept her composure, throwing out excuses. "It's nothing," she said, "just some stupid flirtation, it means nothing." I kept pushing, asking her why she lied, why she was sneaking around. Her words started to slip, her excuses getting more desperate. Then I hit her with the biggest piece of evidence, the voice recordings from her phone. I pressed play, and her own voice confirmed everything. She was caught red-handed, lying through her teeth, trying to deny it all. That's when her mask finally cracked. Her face twisted into this contemptuous glare, like she was trying to dismiss me as some jealous fool. "You don't understand, Mike," she spat. "Jake and I are just having fun. It's not serious. You're overreacting." That word, overreacting, broke something inside me, because no, I wasn't overreacting. I was hurt, betrayed, humiliated. I felt a mix of rage and heartbreak that I can't even put into words. How could she be so callous? How could she do this during my dad's funeral, right under my nose, and then tell me it was no big deal? The way she looked at me with that fake innocence, like she was the victim, made me realize I'd been played from the start. She was just a bitch who knew exactly how to lie and manipulate her way through life. I could see the moment she realized she wasn't getting out of this without consequences. Her eyes narrowed, and she started to backpedal, throwing out more lies, saying it was just sex, that it didn't mean anything, that she loved me. But I wasn't buying any of it. Not anymore. I looked at her with pure disgust and told her I was done. Done with her lies, done with her games, done with being the fool. I told her I was leaving, that I wanted her out of my life, and that I'd make sure everyone knew what she really was. The aftermath was a blur. I packed my things that night, feeling like I was waking up from a nightmare I couldn't escape. I told her she could stay or go. I didn't care anymore. Honestly, I didn't care if she begged or lied some more. I was so drained, emotionally, physically, mentally. I'd been betrayed by my wife and my best friend, and I didn't know how to trust anyone anymore. I felt hollow, like I was walking around in a shell of myself, trying to piece together what was left of my shattered life. What really hit me was how quickly everything crumbled. One moment I was married, thinking I had a future. The next, I was alone, furious, and hurt beyond words. I kept replaying their kiss, her lies, her smirk. It haunted me. Even now, I still wonder how someone I loved could be so heartless, so selfish. The most painful part is knowing she never really loved me. She just wanted to see how far she could push before I found out. And when I finally did, well, the consequences are what you see now. I don't know what's next, but I do know I will never trust her again. Never. Since that day, everything has changed. I moved out, cut all contact with Lisa and Jake, and started rebuilding my life from scratch. It's been a brutal process, trusting myself again, figuring out who I am without her. The worst part was realizing how much I had given her, how blind I'd been, thinking she was just a little bitchy or emotionally distant. Turns out she was just a liar, a manipulator, a heartless piece of shit who used me like a game. I don't regret exposing her. Honestly, I feel a strange sense of relief. At least now I know the truth and I can finally start healing. Looking back, I see how much I let her walk all over me because I didn't want to face the reality. I was scared of losing her, of being alone. But now I see that staying with her would have been worse, living in a lie, pretending everything was okay when it was. I learned a lot from this, mostly that I should never ignore the signs and that sometimes the truth has to come out no matter how painful it is. I've started seeing someone new, someone who genuinely cares about me, who treats me with respect. It's a slow process and I'm still working through the anger and disappointment, but I know I'll come out stronger because of it. If there's one thing I want anyone reading this to know, it's that betrayal cuts deep, and it's okay to feel broken for a while. But don't ever settle for a lie. Truth, no matter how brutal, is always better than living in deception. To anyone dealing with something similar, just remember, you deserve honesty. You deserve someone who respects you and values what you bring to the table. Don't let anyone, especially a partner you trusted, turn out to be a heartless cheat. There's life after betrayal, and it can be better than before. You just have to have the courage to face it, to expose the lies, and to walk away when you need to. Because in the end, you're worth more than someone who would cheat on you during your worst day and lie to your face. That's the lesson I've learned the hard way.